Welcome one, welcome all to the finest podcast in Payne County.
Hey, hey.
This is Pastors of Payne. I'm Father James Porter, and this is joining me.
I'm Father Robert Healey.
And normally what happens is that Father Brian O'Brien and Father Carey Coolidge, the pastors of Payne, are on the show talking about stuff about the church, St. John's and St. Francis. But a coup has occurred.
Today we're taking over.
Today the associate pastors of Payne are in the house.
Yes. So.
Yeah. And so what we thought, and this idea came when Father Healey and I first got here back in July.
Maybe, yes, I think it was about a year ago, almost.
Yeah. And we thought, wouldn't it be cool if the associate pastors had a podcast where we would just talk about pretty much the same things that Father Carey and Father Brian would talk about.
But better.
Yes.
Just because.
Fresher
As
perspective.
the associate pastors of Payne, we have not only perspective of Payne, we also have a perspective of the pastors of Payne.
Exactly. And, and both of us have been at previous parishes.
That's correct.
Right. Where were you, Father Healey?
I was at St. Anne's in Broken Arrow before coming out to Stillwater.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just maybe, 4 miles as a crow flies, or as
whatever bird flies. Yeah. For me. And I was at St. Benedict's in Broken Arrow for 3 years, and then moved here to St. John's to become Father Carey's associate. And you, of course, moved to St. Francis at the same time.
Right. So the Stillwater associates were previously the Broken Arrow associates, but here we are.
Here we are. And as Father Carey would say, we just keep the hits rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And and so you're coming up on your, how many years of ordination?
I'm coming up on my third anniversary as a priest.
Yeah.
I was ordained a priest a year after Father Porter.
That's right. And coming up on 4. And so what we thought we would do is just talk about the life of an associate pastor. First off, what is an associate pastor? Because not every parish in the Diocese of Tulsa, most parishes in the United States probably don't have an associate pastor, right? And most parishes, you may have one priest that's there for all of these different people. And I think
even more than one church, more than one parish. A lot of priests in our diocese have a couple parishes that they're ministering to, maybe 2 or 3 or even 4. And so it's kind of a special thing and a very great blessing for a parish to be able to have an associate pastor, because it means that a parish has 2 priests serving there.
Exactly. Double the fun. And, but also, like, as you mentioned, it's quite a blessing because we're able to do a lot more in terms of the ministry and that the mission of the evangelization of the people, the growth in the surrounding areas can, you can double, it's kind of like double the amount of confessions, of masses, sacramental responsibilities. But at the core, what would you say with all of that, right? All of the the external responsibilities of the sacramental duties, the administrative stuff. What would you say, Father Healey, would be like the core difference between a pastor and an associate?
Well, I think the best way to answer that is to look at a canonical term, which isn't something we use all the time. Typically, we refer to
So canonical term being like canon law, right? The law of the church. Law.
Exactly. So this is a term that the church uses in her law to describe various different things and explain what they are. And the term canon law uses for an associate pastor in the Catholic Church is a parochial vicar, which sounds really cool. It sounds like something coming out of, I don't know,
like Downton Abbey or something like that.
Something in England, or it's got a kind of a posh sound to it. I don't know. But
parochial vicar.
It actually has kind of a specific meaning. A vicar is somebody who carries the authority of another person. So when we talk about the Pope being the vicar of Christ, we're saying he's not just his own king, the king of the church who gets to decide everything. Christ is the king of the church, and the Pope is his vicar, meaning the Pope is his steward, if you've ever seen the Lord of the Rings, right? You and I know the Lord of the Rings pretty well.
Yeah, we're nerds, by the way,
We've
in
talked
case.
about it before. But anybody who knows the Lord of the Rings knows Denethor is the steward of Gondor. He carries the king's authority when the king isn't there. And that's kind of, in the context of the story of the Lord of the Rings, kind of a main plot point is the fact that here you have the steward of Gondor, but there hasn't been a king in forever. And the steward really likes having the kingly power because he's literally vested with the kingly power. So he doesn't, in the context of the Lord of the Rings, the steward of Gondor is really not happy with the idea of the king coming back and taking his own authority, because then, as the steward, he just have to play second fiddle. But this reality of somebody holding somebody else's authority is what the church refers to as a vicar. And so the vicar of Christ is the Pope, and the bishops have episcopal vicars, my pastor, and regular
Mine.
host of the show, right? Father Brian O'Brien is the vicar forain, meaning he's got a particular position of carrying the bishop's authority in certain ways in certain places here in this vicariate, which goes from basically the west side of Tulsa out here all the way to the edge of the diocese. So a parochial vicar is a priest who's not just another priest in the parish who's just kind of doing his priestly stuff alongside another priest, but he's a priest who carries the authority of the pastor not as his own, but as a steward, as someone who's working with the pastor. And I think it brings out a dynamic in the relationship between the pastor and his associate that I think is very beautiful, because we're here, we're not just, even on this podcast, right? We're carrying the authority. We're doing what our pastors do on their behalf.
Which is why I can be so crazy and brilliant at the same time.
Exactly.
Because I carry the authority of Father Carey.
He's channeling Father Carey right now.
Oh,
Can't you tell?
Oh, yes, with all of the shenanigans. But the beautiful thing, too, is that, like you said, we're not just kind of off by ourselves doing our own separate thing, right? We're assigned by the bishop, so we're priests, and we're assigned by the bishop to be here to assist the pastors in the carrying out of the mission here in Payne County. And so,
and that's very beautiful, because we get to share in a lot of things. We get to see perspectives and see things that are going on that most people in the parish don't see, because a pastor can't just be talking about this or that with anybody. He has to, but he has to share certain things with his associate, because we have to know how to join in his mission. I'm not just off on my own thing. You're not just not doing off. You're doing your own thing. We have to be cooperative, and so
right. And for me, I think one of the beautiful things about being Father Carey's associate, especially this past year with all the building projects, in case you don't know at home, we built this beautiful $27.5 million church and student center, beautiful church. And so getting to see how Father Carey handles all of the decision making in that, and helping him in the day-to-day by being out on campus, because we have a campus ministry, has been very beautiful. Because when I arrived here, I asked Father Carey, as you probably asked Father Brian, and every parochial vicar or associate pastor asks, what am I supposed to do?
what do you want me to do?
Yeah. And what Father Carey told me was, go be with the students. I'm going to handle the administrative part. I'm going to handle getting the things built, literally. I need you to be with the students, to evangelize, to be out on campus. And so I was out 2 or 3 days a week on campus, spiritual direction, confession, all of that. But all that flows from me talking with my pastor, communicating that, and him saying, this is what I need for the gospel to be proclaimed in Oklahoma State.
Right.
And
it's exactly the same sort of thing on my side. I'm obviously not working with the college students the way Father Carey and Father Porter are. I'm doing in the parochial life of St. Francis Xavier, but it's the same sort of thing. I have my own missions. I've got my own things to do. Father O'Brien's saying, go at it. Take, whatever. The way he phrased it, I'm trying to think. It was, we're going to play up your strengths. We're going to, you got things that you bring. You've got gifts, you've got talents, you've got strengths to bring to this mission, and we want to use those. And then he said, but we also want to fill in any gaps. you're here in training, right? There's this definite sense, especially in our diocese, where we need pastors. The bishop needs pastors, and so being an associate is a time of training and a time of preparation for being made a pastor somewhere, being given that authority. And so while we're doing our own thing in some sense and using our own, playing up our own strengths, but we're also learning. I would say that in your case here, now it's been announced, of course, months ago, and you're getting ready at the end of this month to take over the reins at TU as the college chaplain at TU. What do you think about, I mean, like, how do you see that your role as the assistant chaplain at Oklahoma State is set you up, is preparing you for being a full chaplain on your own in your own right?
Right. Well, it's kind of interesting because I'm, as Father Healey mentioned, I'm being moved to the Newman Center at the University of Tulsa, which is a canonically established parish. So what that means is that I'll be a pastor of a parish, and it's kind of fun to think about. And there's I think my time here at St. John has helped me. My time at St. Benedict's has helped me because for 3 years at St. Benedict's, I was helping, advise Father Brian Brooks, the pastor there, about things that were going on in the parish. COVID happened, all of that sort of thing that really helped shape a culture of a parish. And then I come here, and with Father Carey, I learned a lot about what campus ministry involves and all the hard work that goes into it. And so when I go to St. Philip's, I'll be taking both of all of that experience together and really looking at what does the Lord want St. Philip's to look like? And it has to be the Lord. It can't be my own ambition to say I'm going to be the best pastor ever, supplant all y'all, and just said no saint in heaven ever.
No saint ever, because obviously there have been priests before you in this role, and there'll be priests after you. And so what you're trying to do is build on the graces and the gifts that have come for you. And
exactly. And so to put the shoe on the other foot, proverbially, you've been here for almost a year.
I've been
Yeah.
since last July. Obviously, we both came out to store at the same time.
Yeah. So what do you think has been some of the greatest blessings in this past year for you?
Well, my previous assignment, so I was for the 2 years prior to this year, I was at St. Anne's. I was assigned as the associate pastor in St. Anne's in Broken Arrow, and I was working with Father Matt Gerlach. And then the second year of those 2 years, I was also doing parochial ministry, pastoral ministry, and saying Mass and such at Holy Cross out in Wagner. And those experiences were very formative because Father Matt said, I want to just kind of let you discover the gifts that you have, the strengths that you have, really bring those to the table. And so he gave me a lot of leeway and a lot of time and ability to grow as the priest that I am, to step into the priesthood and get my sea legs under me. Because I would say, you'd probably agree, there's a sense when you're ordained, that it's like you get on board a ship and everything's rocking, and you have to kind of figure out how to do it, how to be a priest. And
Yeah, it's one of those unique things, because when I think the perception is that when you're ordained a priest, and Father Brian and Father Carey mentioned this a number of weeks back with just that priestly burnout is real segment about how a priest has to be a small business owner, has to be pastoral ministry, have all these different hats to wear. And the seminary only has so much time to teach you in that. I mean, the same with a job, no one expects, every aspect of every job you're ever going to have to be learned in a 4-year or 5-year program.
Right. And there are certain things you can't learn until you get into it.
Yeah.
If you're a doctor, you can go to school, and you can study in a classroom, you can study various different things, but there's an art to it as well.
Y-
in
You
where
got to
you
start
actually
cutting things open to actually
start,
get in there.
well, actually diagnosing actual patients, you know.
Well, even doctors have
Mm,
residency, so they have a type of associate
exactly.
pastorship, if you will, and where they get to learn and from experienced doctors and nurses and how to do all that.
So
Eh,
I would say that even just hearing confessions is something you can prepare for. You can have a class. We had a class in our seminary. We went to the same seminary.
yes,
Father Keller taught us our confession class, and he provides sample situations and asks us how do you respond, various different things. But it's a totally different thing to be sitting in the confessional and have someone on their knees on the other side of the screen or sitting in the chair in front of you who is pouring their heart out before God. It's a deeply humbling and an enormously gratifying and beautiful thing to experience and to be part of. And nothing can prepare you for that. And so I was, you just have to go into it and say, wow, God, what you are doing this. And it is amazing. And so that it takes some time to just get used to that and to figure out how the run of parish life works and going through the course of the year and oh wow, it's already Christmas and oh wow, it's already Lent and
yeah, exactly. And something that you said struck me is just like it takes time to actually do that. And so bishop isn't going to ordain a man and then just plop him right into a parish as a pastor, right? I mean, no one, after going through medical school or whatnot, or going through a police academy, like there's an apprenticeship that happens
right.
in every major professional field that I know of, and I'm sure there's some exceptions, but there, you have to have that time. And so I think with Father Brian and Father Carey, all four of us have very like different approaches to parish ministry,
Right.
and they
And that's
both,
healthy
and it's
because
healthy.
we all have particular things we're focused on, particular things that the Lord is placing on our hearts in our prayer and our homilies are going to be different. This Sunday, all four of us will be preaching a homily, and
Well, except Father Carey, he's on sabbatical,
he'll be preaching a homily somewhere
perhaps.
to himself. Who
Yes,
knows? He's got all sorts of great things to say.
yes.
Somebody's got to hear it.
Someone's got to hear it, and Father Carey wants to say it. Yeah, so like I guess my question for you, Father Healey, would be, you've had two pastors, and like with Father Matt and Father Brian. What are maybe like one or two things that you've learned from them that you're like, I want to do this when I'm a priest?
Well, one
Or
of the
sorry, when you are a priest. Sorry, when you're a
when I'm a
pastor.
priest.
So
One day when I'm a priest. Oh, I am a priest.
I'm a priest.
I would say with Father Matt, one of the things that I really admired about him is his ability, his knowledge of the people of the parish, the way that he um, is very intentional about getting to know them. And so, um, in the evening, he would be booked up for evenings quite a ways out, just because he's making sure he's spending the time with people, very personable and also the sort of intensity with which he goes about um, preparing people for marriage or going into working through enrollments with people, the way that he would go visit people in the hospital or in the nursing homes. And I remember one Christmas Eve that he made a point to go to various different homebound people in order to make sure they got Holy Communion from him, an opportunity to, if they wanted to go to confession or be anointed, anything they need. And that was very beautiful and very inspiring. So when I'm a priest,
Which you are.
which I am, when I'm a pastor someday, I want to have that kind of intense, this sort of focus in taking care of my people and getting to know them, and not just, not being just somebody who comes in and says mass or walks into the confessional, hears confessions, and pushes papers around and sends emails, but who's very intentional about knowing people. And Father O'Brien, I would say very much the same sorts of things. He is great at communicating, even over the top sometimes, I think. But that communication is key. It's very important to helping everyone be working together and building a teamwork in the staff so that every member of the staff understands that what they're doing is in being done in tandem and is being done as a team. And so I think one of the steep climbs that I've had in coming into St. Francis Xavier is simply been the fact that Father O'Brien says, like, this is getting you ready for a time you're going to be a pastor. So you need to be involved in everything. You need to make sure you're at all of these various different meetings. You need to make sure that you are communicating stuff, that you are learning to get out in front of things and tell people what's coming down the pipe and how to be ready for it. And he does that very well. He's very conscious of getting the word out and saying, look, if we're going to bless salt and water, like, why are we doing that? Why are we blessing that? What do you do with the blessed salt? What do you do with the blessed water? And those sorts of things. And so I've been learning a lot from him in that capacity. Kind of as you've been learning how to do a building campaign and how to go through the dedication and keep the contractors and the workers and everything honest and stay on top of.
Yes, that is something that Father Carey, I've learned very much from him, is his diligence. And it's almost to a fault. It's like, he'll send out like 20 emails a day about like these like things that he noticed in the students are like, there's a ding here, or there's a chip here. And you're just like, is that really important? But the answer is yes, because, it's the people of God have paid money for it. And so they need to, it needs to be of excellent quality. And that's something that Father Carey does well. In fact, a couple weeks ago, we had a staff retreat, and my staff members, along with myself, even though I'm leaving at the end of the month, but our staff members, we were looking at what can we do excellent? What is like the thing of great excellence? And so Father Carey takes that into everything that he does. The downside of that is also like he notices these little things and just kind of like hones in, but it's also like
Right.
sometimes it's hard to get him on track. And because Father Carey is, as I say to the students, is biochemically fueled. Right? I mean, like God doesn't just make men like that every day. He is just like, just like I don't know, like a war machine, just like a Sherman tank that just blazes along the path. But it's hard to get focused sometimes. But like the students though, there's not a doubt in my mind that he loves the students, prays and fasts for them, and like when any student needs something, he is able to drop everything and like hone in exactly as to what the student needs. And that's a type of fatherhood that comes from God. You just don't create that.
Right. It has to be. There's a grace as the pastor to know certain things and to be able to make decisions and trust that God is guiding you. Even you make mistakes. Like
Yeah.
do things that you shouldn't do. It's not to say that every priest is infallible or can't do anything wrong. Of course they can. Of course we can. But I think one of the beautiful things about being in this assignment, living 4 priests in one house and having to get through the all the all the different frictions of 4 people and plus a seminarian, because we've had a seminarian through this last year, and we're going to have
We have 2 this summer.
2 this summer. There's a lot of friction that comes with who left their such and such sitting here for the last 3 days. I'm moving it. Why are you moving my stuff?
Yeah. There's a great book out there. I think it's called Who Moved My Cheese? And
Yes.
and it's that same sort of notion of like control and just like in there. And that's
But
been
that friction comes from the different personalities, and God made these personalities to be different because the people of God need a variety of priests serving them, each with their own gifts, each with their own particular blessings, to be able to present this to the church and say, you need to know, need to have a deeper devotion, or you need to be, more intentional about communication, or you need to be more present to our Lord in prayer, or you need, whatever
Right.
it is that the priest is is coming to. And that's partially his own quirks and partially his own
Right.
idiosyncrasies, but it's also the way that God, like when God sends him to his assignment through the bishop.
Yeah, and it's something that, like you said, like each priest personality, each priest gifts and whatnot are there. And so kind of circling back a little bit from our pastors, to you and me. um, you and I have very different schedules
Right.
because you work in a parish and things generally wrap up what 8, 9 o'clock, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it depends on the day.
Right.
But they're gonna we have an evening mass, and then most people in that we're serving here at St. Francis Xavier want to go home and have dinner and spend the evening with their kids or families, and then call it a night.
Right.
So we
And
don't have the whole
right.
schedule you have in the middle of the night. It's like it's 10 o'clock. The night is young.
That's right. Let's go to the bars. And
Why?
yeah, yes. And to which I say, okay. And because, as a college, associate pastor and chaplain, uh, my duty is to the college students. And so when the college students at 10 o'clock at night are hanging out, playing board games at St. John and asking like, so yeah, I was reading in John 6 and I'm just like, all right, let's go. Right. Because, that, or like, I've gotten texts at 1 o'clock in the morning from students who are like, Father, I really need to talk with you. I really need to, and I tell the students, and so does Father Carey, call me anytime. If you call me at 1 or 2 o'clock, you get what you get. but we're always happy to take the students' calls. I know you and Father Brian are too. So our schedules are so different, and so
Things that would be reasonable for me to do might make you an old fuddy-duddy
yeah,
in your in your assignment, just because like we're not priests for ourselves.
right.
This isn't about us. It's about the people the flock that we're called to serve. And some priests are given a flock of very calm sheep, and some people are given a flock of very vigorous and excited and ready to go sheep. And sometimes you have to tone things down, and sometimes you have to rev things up. And it's always
Based on the Holy Spirit and what He wants to do. And
right.
yeah. And so like, as we're coming to the end of this, going ahead into your next year, and perhaps in like 30 seconds, what's like the one thing that you love about being an associate pastor?
The thing I love about being an associate pastor is the fact that I get to pour myself out every day for the people that I'm here to serve and to learn, and not to be the decision maker, not to be there's something nice about not having to make the decisions, because you can learn from somebody else. When you're in the position of having to make the decisions, there's only so much. Okay, what do you think? Okay, what do you think? What do you think that you can do? Because eventually, as a leader, you have to make the decision.
Right.
And so, as the associate, I can see decisions that I like. I can see decisions that I don't like. And either way, I can say, okay, God, you're behind this. Teach me what I need to learn. So I think that's the thing I'm most excited about for this upcoming year, in my own continuing to be an associate pastor, and in your preparation for being a pastor now, starting July 1st.
Yep. The Portarian regime will start, and I'm looking forward to being a pastor. Looking forward to making those decisions and trying to help the people of God grow. So now, of course, we come to the end of our time, Father Healey. It's always a pleasure, and I will miss our time together. And people of Payne County, keep praying for us, and God bless you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. We've been so glad to have you join us for the Associate Pastors of Payne, the exclusive edition.
And
Please listen to our pastors as the time comes on.